folks. This is Foxwine. I recently was in communication with a friend talking about, in Oxygen Not Included, how I was working on design for a self-powering oxygen maker. And the friend looked at the design that I was working on and asked me, how does this work? Could you show me a working one? The only problem is that the design that I was showing off was solely on paper, sort of digital paper, and I had not actually built that particular design. The only design that I have is the prototype of it that I had made. Basically, I was watching another streamer whose name has flown entirely from my mind, and he was building something that he called a Rodriguez machine for the person who originally came up with it, which is using electrolyzers in Oxygen Not Included to power hydrogen power generators that would then in turn power the whole system and give your base lots and lots of oxygen. The thing was that I was very intrigued by this. I wanted to be able to do it, and I looked around, but everyone that I saw making these machines, setups, were using just very basic stuff. They weren't using automation, and they weren't filtering. And my thought was, I could totally make something that used the gas sensor automation in a very simple way, and a smart battery just to keep things nice and simple, and use some gas filters so that I have a way to make it so that if I accidentally suck up the wrong kind of gas, I don't end up sending it somewhere it'll break something or suffocate someone. Which I then went and tried in one of my personal games. And this was the result. I went very simply with this one. I built it on top of a steam geyser that I already had, just using the water from that, which I was not using for anything in my base at the time. And just in case the steam geyser shut down, I also set up a little automation inside the chamber that I built for it that would allow me to send extra water to this reservoir if it started running low. But this is the first basic setup that I came up with, and it does indeed run and produce oxygen. It produces enough oxygen that my base has enough air, although all of the empty space that it still counts as a place, not so much. But I'm not 100% happy with this design. I have these two pumps which are pumping the hydrogen, but they're very far apart, and the hydrogen gets really spread around, which makes it good that I used because they are sucking in a bit of oxygen as well, and the oxygen pumps are not actually on the floor, so I feel like I'm wasting all of this oxygen here. So I'm not entirely happy with the design, but I am using 3 gas filters. This bottom one is sending oxygen down and out. Actually, let me see. Where is my ventilation overlay? Here we go. We have the 3 pumps. The top one sends hydrogen directly to the hydrogen generators, but it's also sucking up oxygen, so it's sending that downwards. This one is filtering oxygen and sending that into the main oxygen pipe that goes back to my base. And this one is also filtering oxygen and sending anything that is not oxygen, and it's also feeding into this one, and sending anything that's not oxygen out into the outside of the structure. I built this in an area that was full of polluted air, nothing but polluted air, so it's just pumping all of the polluted air back out, but capturing all of the hydrogen and all of the oxygen. The main problem with this one is that it's not very heat regulated. I'm using incredibly hot water. I'm ending up with hot oxygen, which I am then pumping straight into my base without sending it anywhere to cool it or anything like that. If I were building it again, I would send the oxygen through one of my ice biomes, or I would plant some wheezeworts over the pipe to cool it down before it actually reached my base. But this is my experimental base where I try out systems that I'm building or attempting. So this is the working prototype. And it chugs along nicely. I haven't had to add water to the reservoir in quite some time. But, you know, I'm not enthused about how only one pump seems to run at a time despite them all being plugged into the automation. I don't understand why only one of these pumps runs, but both of these will. It doesn't make any sense to me. But it runs. It's providing enough oxygen for my base, even though the oxygen itself is rather too warm. But it's beautiful. It works. And just to show it off, this is the design that I was originally showing to my friend. This was my next attempt. I would definitely arrange the darn it, I've lost the word. The insulated tile. The one line that's through the top is definite, but I don't know whether or not I would need to put insulated tile around the outside or anything like that. This one has 2 access points so that you don't have to climb through the entire oxygen producing section in order to get to the power generators if you need them. I also incorporated storage tanks for both the hydrogen and the oxygen so that the system doesn't get as backed up as the one that I have in game. And as well, I added water reservoirs at the bottom just to in case of not having like a steam geyser to pump directly from, or wanting to actually cool the water before it ends up going into the system. And but this is a much neater one that still uses the 3 pumps, although they're in different places and that sort of thing. And it is my hope that, you know, more of the oxygen pumps would actually pump oxygen with this particular build. The one thing that really needs to be explained is that I built in a jump start for my system. We'll turn off the overlay. This manual generator down here was to just get the system started, because when you first build it, it has no power, none. So I had 2 wheels here actually, and I had my dupes running on the wheels to just get the system started and get it started powering until the hydrogen generators filled up. I had dupes running on the system for the equivalent of, if I remember correctly, about 3 days to get this system jump started. And as far as power goes, the water pump and everything all run off of these 2 hydrogen generators here, and I am producing more than enough power. it fills up the smart battery, then the hydrogen generators don't run for a bit until the smart battery runs down, and I have not had anything overheat as far as the wiring goes. This is a nice self-contained system. It is producing the right amount of power to keep itself going, and I don't need more than that. But I also have the transformer here just to keep the wires from overloading and everything. So that is my self-powered oxygen making machine, including automation and filters so that we get the good stuff going in the right places. And also, this is a gas element sensor up here, which is set to sense hydrogen and turn on the two upper pumps, and then an oxygen sensor down here to turn on these pumps. And it's all very neat and tidy. For the most part, it's just I don't really like the way that I dealt with the hydrogen, and I worry myself about not having put in a layer of insulation between the power generation and the oxygen generation here. This system runs pretty hot, and I am pumping very hot oxygen directly into my base. And yeah, next time I build one of these, I'm definitely going to try to make them a lot more temperature friendly for my dupes, because it's gotten to the point where I can't actually farm in the base. I'm having to farm away off in the distance, which is not terribly efficient. But they all have air. Air is everywhere. So, that was my embarrassing prototype of a Rodriguez oxygen producing setup using automation and gas filters. I hope it was helpful and informative.